Good morning and welcome to today's daily word of encouragement. I feel led to encourage some of you today who find yourself with your back against a wall. You find yourself in a situation where you have done all that you can and you're at the end of your rope. Sometimes when we do all that we can to remedy a situation, we feel like we're in water, and the more we move, the more we sink. And we do find ourselves in seasons, whether we are put there ourselves through poor choices or just circumstances of life that are out beyond our control. There are those times when we are at the end of our rope and we find ourselves with our back against the wall, or we feel like we are approaching a Red Sea and Pharaoh's army is chasing and pursuing after us. I'm reminded of the woman with the issue of blood that we read throughout the Gospels, particularly Mark chapter 5. And this woman had been hemorrhaging and she'd been bleeding for 12 years. She had exhausted all of her resources. She had reached out to every physician, everyone who she thought was equipped to cure her, and to no avail. They couldn't stop it. And it cost her everything. It cost her relationships. It cost her financial provision. It cost her home, because in those times when a woman had issues of blood or so forth, she was considered unclean and she had to live outside of the camp until the bleeding had ceased. And so she was isolated. She was a woman who had been mocked and ridiculed. She had become once a neighbor, now a stranger. And some of you can relate to that because you've been through circumstances that have caused separation, circumstances that you feel like you're at the end of your rope. You have basically, emptied all of your resources. You've done all that you can, and the situation, whatever you're going through, has not been remedied. But I want to remind you today that it's in those moments of vulnerability where we feel like our back is against the wall and our hands have been tied. And it's those seasons and those moments where it's, God, if you don't come through, I'm going to drown. If you don't come through, I'm going to be devoured. If you don't come through, I'm going to be alone. God, if you don't come through, I'm going to be homeless. God, if you don't come through, this illness is going to overtake my body. God, if you don't come through. And we find ourselves in those situations where we are required to have desperate faith. Now I'm reminded of the scripture that says faith without works is dead. You see, God is a God. He is a Father who loves us. We are his children. And sometimes we say we have faith, but we don't have any action behind it. And God does not want lazy children. I have my kids that I'm raising up, and if I don't get on their case, if Mike doesn't get on their case, their rooms are destroyed. And we don't want lazy children, because lazy children grow up to be lazy adults. And we want them to thrive and to be independent as adults. And so we get on their case, and we don't lord over them every day, but there are times where a few weeks go by and it's like, you need to do something with this room. It's out of control. And God does not, like you and I, want to be a father of lazy children. So he wants us to put our faith into action. But what do you do when you have done all of that action partnered with faith, and it seems as though this Red Sea is still in front of us and Pharaoh's army is still pursuing us? What do you do when you've done all that you can to stand? The word says in Ephesians to stand therefore with and suited in the armor of God. So my friends, I want to encourage you today, like the woman with the issue of blood, when you have exhausted all of your resources, your back is against the wall, you are primed for a miracle. You are primed, and the stage has been set for God to move in your life. It's uncomfortable, but it's in that moment of desperate faith that God comes through. So be encouraged today. This word is to remind you today that God hears you. He has not abandoned you. He has not neglected you. No, he's not like the other people in your life. His integrity is intact, and he has a perfect track record. That God's love never fails. It doesn't abandon. It doesn't neglect. It doesn't forsake. And he's going to come through. So if this message today just gives you one more day of hope, then maybe that one more day of hope is all that you need to continue walking by faith. Be encouraged today. You have a God who loves you. He sees you, and he's not going to let the circumstances drown you. He's going to part the waters, and he's going to make a way. So God bless you today. God bless you. Be encouraged that when you're at the end of the rope, you're at the perfect place for Jesus to pull you up. He's on his way. He's coming through. He's already sent forth his word to bring relief. God bless you. I love you, and be encouraged.